Thrill Seekers, that was a bass line from In My Eyes by Minor Threat, played on this Fender Precision bass that I've had in storage for a long time, and I forgot how great this bass is, so I took it out of storage because I'm moving, so had to take everything out, and just plugged it in this morning, and it's great. I found this at a Guitar Center in New York City during that brief period when I was living in New York, in Brooklyn, and it was really cheap, even though it's an American-made Fender because it's so beaten up. But I like to think that it belonged to some crazed punk rocker who destroyed it on stage, but still kept it in good playing shape because it sounds great, even though it looks kind of terrible. But I think it looks kind of cool. Anyway, I used it for everything on this album that Zero Defects did called Caught in Reflection. I don't think you can find the CD anymore, but you can find this all on Spotify, so go for Zero Defects Caught in a Reflection if you want to hear what this sounds like. So on this episode, I'd like to talk about getting exactly what you want. I was talking with my brother-in-law yesterday, my wife's sister's husband, and he was talking about no matter what he gets in life, once he gets it, it just becomes another thing, and he's on to the next desire, which is kind of an uncommon understanding. I think if people explain it to you and you notice it, you'll come to understand it. And there's a lot of people who understand it, but there's a lot of people who don't. That the nature of desire is kind of decoupled from getting what you desire. So it's like what Mr. Spock says in one episode of, I think it's in Amok Time, the episode of the first Star Trek series. He says something like, having is often not such a pleasing thing as wanting. This is not logical, but it is often true, I think is what Mr. Spock says, something like that.
After a time, you may find that having is not so pleasing a thing after all as wanting. It is not logical, but it is often true.
So part of what I've tried to bring forth into the world in my books is this very notion, and it really drives a lot of the narrative, if we can call it that, parts of Hardcore Zen, my book Hardcore Zen, because it was written at a time not too long after I'd gotten something that I had wanted for a long time but had thought was unobtainable. And, for most people, the unobtainable thing that you want is money, fame, power, rock stardom, this kind of thing. And often it goes that way, and we can maybe talk about that. But in my case, I wanted to work at this stupid company. I don't want to say stupid. I wanted to work at Subaraya Productions. Stupid, I say, because I think most people would consider that sort of dream stupid. In fact, in the book, I call it small and stupid dreams. But it was an impossible dream. I was a person born in Ohio, didn't have any particular connection with Japan or with the Tsubaraya family or anything like that. So how do I end up getting this job, this dream job that I had always wanted, to work in a company that makes Japanese monster movies? And in the book I tell the story of how it came to be, but it almost doesn't matter. The point of it was that I'd realized this great dream, and now I'm kind of sitting there going, well, what's next? And it's kind of the way everything is. Heaven, for example, is sold to people who believe in heaven as being this ultimate place of complete happiness and satisfaction. But such a place doesn't exist. If you got to heaven, you'd get bored with heaven. I mean, people make this joke all the time about being bored with the harps and the wings and everything else. But really, there's nothing that you can't get bored with. And people who become rich famous rock stars and that kind of thing often notice this. I'm working right now with a friend, my friend Bob Ritchie, on his movie. What's it called? This is Elvis's Birthday, 1992, something. So this is this really long, ridiculous title, but he made this short film in 1992 with his friend Mike Hudson, was the leader of the band The Pagans, about Elvis's birthday, and working on this got me to thinking about Elvis. Now, there's a biography of Elvis called, dang it, if I can remember, I will tell you. But it's a two-part biography, and I'll put it on the screen because I can't remember the title of it right now, but I'll find out. Put it on the screen. And the first part of this, the first book, because they're both two big, thick books, is really, it's like a feel-good book. Like, he's going for his dream, and by the end of the book, he's realized his dream, and he's the most famous rock star in the world, and everything's going great. The second part of the book is a harrowing trip into hell, really, of what it's like to get everything that you want. There's a story about Elvis that's often told as an example of his excesses, and it is that he and his boys decided they wanted a certain kind of a sandwich, so they got in Elvis's private plane in Memphis, flew to Las Vegas, I think, I can't remember exactly, got the sandwich and ate it, and then flew back home. And this is like a story of, how excessive Elvis was. But when you read it in that book, it's not a story of how excessive Elvis was. It was a story of, like, this is the only way the guy can go get a sandwich. He can't walk into the local Subway or, maybe a better sandwich store in Memphis that he likes without getting mobbed, without everything just going crazy, and he just wants to eat a damn sandwich in peace. He can't do that. So because he can't do that, the only way he can go have a sandwich is to fly to Las Vegas with his boys, his entourage around him, and do this sort of extreme sort of thing. But that's all he can do. He can't have an ordinary life anymore. And so what he ended up was that he had this extraordinary life, and what he longed for was this ordinary life that he had before he had the extraordinary one. So it doesn't matter what you get. Whatever you get is going to be a thing that you've already got once you got it. And a good example of that might be this bass that I played in the opening of this video. I found this, like I said, in a guitar center in New York City, of all places. Guitar centers are usually not great places to find cool used instruments. And I came across this, and they didn't want very much for it. And it was an American-made Fender bass, which is usually, that'll drive the price up to over $1,000 just because of that. But because it's in such crummy shape, they wanted a lot less than that for it. And I got it, and I was just amazed by the sound of it. This is the tone, this is the bass tone that I always heard in my mind when I was playing other instruments and couldn't get it. But I can get it out of this, and I can even get it using this little Black Star amp, the one the battery stopped working in, but I got it plugged in now to the long extension cord. Even out of this little amp, it still sounds terrific. So that's how good it is. I should have stopped. I should have never bought another bass again, but I did. In the subsequent years, buy others. I kept this one. Usually when I buy a new bass, I sell the old one, but I kept this one because I knew it was so great. So at least I had the sense to do that. But it just goes to show you that anything that you get will always become a thing that you have, and that you're eventually going to have more desires that come up. So the desire is a different thing. We couple desire with getting something. So we think that we have the desire for X thing, for the Fender bass. And then we think once we get the Fender bass, that desire goes away. Well, the desire for the Fender bass might go away, but then there's another desire that's going to come up in its place. So what we're looking at when we look at desire is a whole different thing, completely decoupled from anything that is looked upon as the thing that will satisfy this desire. And it goes for anything. It doesn't matter what the desire is. That's the way it always, always goes. And this is an important lesson, and it's kind of foundational lesson of Buddhism. It's right there in the First Noble Truth. All life is suffering. The cause of suffering is desire. Although I've often said that my teacher, Gudo Wafu Nishijima, did not like that translation. Still, it's useful for some applications, and this is one of them. So you're always going to desire something else. And there's no way to destroy desire. There's no way to be completely free of desire. And I don't think the great sages or the Buddhists ever advised us to kill off desire, to stop desiring things. The only way I've seen that works is to understand desire for what it is. Just another movement that's going on in the brain going, I want that. And you don't have to respond to it. And know that even if you got that, it's good to know that even if you got it, it just becomes another thing. So you don't really have to follow these great desires. And one of the best quotes I know of about desire shows up in this book, I Am That, by Nisargadatta Maharaj. And if you have the one with this cover on it, it's on page 87 at the beginning of chapter 26, which is titled Personality and Obstacle. And the line is, weak desires can be removed by introspection and meditation, but strong, deep-rooted ones must be fulfilled and their fruits, sweet or bitter, tasted. And whoever's talking to him doesn't pick up on that, which is kind of a shame, but I think that's a great, great quote. Often you kind of have to go through getting what you want in order to understand what that really means when you have a really, really strong desire. And I don't know why those come up sometimes. But if you're honest with yourself, you can always see where every one of those desires leads and where the fulfillment of every desire leads. It leads you right back here. So there you go. That's my message on getting what you want, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to help me get things I want, oh, great transition there. You can send a donation to the URL you're seeing on your screen below at hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links to my PayPal and Patreon accounts. Those are my main and usually only ways of making a living, and I'm moving house right now, so any donation is very much appreciated because this is costing lots of money. So I appreciate whatever you can give me. But as always, you don't gotta donate if you don't want to donate, because I'm still offering this for free. So we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggy. Ziggy. Hey Ziggy, what do you want? Oh, you don't want to look at me because you're looking at something up there. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's the object of your desire, whatever it is you're looking at over there. Ziggy, take a look at me and look at the people. Alright. Talk to you later. Bye.